Hello friends and sunflowers, my name is Lena and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm a Hybe theorist and Happy New Year! I'm not sure if this is the first video of this year actually. This is the return again, Hybe Webtoon Weekly thing. This time, in December, I tried to restart it by doing a video for every single webtoon. But we're up to like, what, 5 webtoons now? 4? 4. We're up to 4 that I'm covering. There's actually a 5th one, which is Choco, but I don't usually talk about it. So that's just a lot of videos. So we're gonna try to combine it into one weekly video. And so I will be just kind of going over the major points, so you're going to get like a slightly less detailed look at everything that happened in the chapter, but anything that I think is a major takeaway is what I'm going to be mentioning here. Also, we're going to be mentioning like multiple missed chapters because the last ones I did was like mid-December, so it's been a few weeks since then. There's new content, so... However, that will not be the norm. Usually I'll be covering like 1, maybe 2 chapters, just sort of depending on what got covered in the last period. That's the idea anyway. So yeah, this video is potentially a little bit longer than usual, but after this it'll be hopefully shorter videos. Just a reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you like this kind of thing. It helps me out and it helps you out because YouTube will recommend these kinds of videos to you in the future as well. Okay, let's get started for today because there's so much to cover. The StarSeekers. So today I'm going to be talking mostly about chapter like 29 and 30, but just as a recap from like the chapters earlier in chapter 28 and 27 I think too. They were kind of just doing like training montages and sort of stuff like that for training their magic, for like attending their like magic idol schedules, I guess. So they were super busy, but during the most recent training session, it was like, oh, it had them like take offensive and defensive roles, and they decided, hey, if we get attacked again, that's what we're gonna do. We have a strat now. It's all good. So we also, which is the most important thing to me, we also learn that it rains black water on Dragon's Peak. This is where they are with the Dragon clan, so no wonder this clan is super rich. Blackwater is a very important resource ever since it was discovered from the, like, appearance of magic, which I honestly don't understand how it fits in because their lore is from, like, thousands of years ago. So again, pocket universe where magic always existed? Universes colliding? I don't know. How magic appeared is a little suspicious to me, but of course they use Blackwater as a resource. It's kind of like a replaced electricity and stuff like that. We know about Blackwater a lot because of the web novel, but the whole like raining Blackwater thing is definitely new. I don't think it's ever been mentioned in the novel unless I completely skipped over it. Very, very interesting. We know it's a natural resource because they've told us this before, but like the fact that it rains it is just super weird because I thought it was something that had to be like mined, like oil, like there was some sort of processing that happens, and like in the web novel they're like, oh, a Blackwater wave is what took out all these normal people who don't have magic, and all of that kind of thing from, like, trying to extract it. So they kind of talked about the refining process, but I still feel a little bit confused. Like, I guess they have to refine it further. They can't just use the rain of the Blackwater, I guess. And we did know also from the web novel that if you use all of the black water, it apparently has some sort of tie to human emotion. So using up all of the black water as a resource is actually not really a good thing because humans will be slowly destroying themselves. Basically, they will have no emotion left. Not great. Also, we did get a confirmation that it is a potions ingredient, which I think was my theory before, but it's just really nice to have like a confirmation of that because then it kind of ties all into like in the temptation video when the cat drinks a potion, it's definitely related to black water. The exception to this does seem to be that in the web novel, Bomgyu's character, like Vikan, he can create potions, and I don't know if they use black water or like not. Like, I'm not sure if they're the same thing. Anyways, all that happens, they end up splitting up because it's raining, so their training gets cancelled. Avis and Vikan end up exploring this, like, creepy downstairs part of the castle, and they're stopped by a woman who is for the clan, and she's like, oh, I wouldn't go down there, there's, like, this restless black cat spirit, and at first I was, like, really intrigued, and they're very, very careful about how they drew this woman. Her eyes are closed the entire conversation. How convenient. Because it turns out this woman was actually the cat. So cat is meddling in their affairs, and it says something like, no, they're mine, or something like that. And I'm just, is there actually something down the corridor? It might not be a restless black cat spirit. I don't know. But something suspicious is going on there. I do kind of wonder if there's this, like, a cat related to the Blackwater, Black Abyss in every universe, and because that cat came from a different universe, it's like, no, I'm not letting you trap these ones. Like, these ones are mine. These boys are mine. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that, because it's just like, okay, so the cat knew there was something there and purposefully derailed Viken and Abyss from finding whatever was at the end of the corridor. And again, I don't know, maybe it's the secret to Dragon's Peak, like why it has all the Blackwater or something like that. I'm not sure. But there was something that they didn't see because of the cat. And the cat even is like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not letting you have it. Like, I don't know, it's just really interesting. Anyways, so they're mostly all back together, and we discover that Tahoe has found information about the clans that they kind of like turn into when they use a lot of magic. It's like with the antlers and the ears and all of that sort of stuff. And I think he discovers about half of them. Besides like the major traits, which in Soul's case is of course having prophetic dreams because he's an elf, which Tahoe figures out. I don't really know if these are like overly important. They were also mentioned in the web novel, but yeah, just like, woo, we know some of their clans now. To me, it doesn't seem that important, but maybe it is in the future. I don't know. Speaking of Soul and prophetic dreams, he's napping this whole time, which of course means that he's going to have a prophetic dream. And this time he realizes what's happening. He's not like confused. He's like, wait, it's this thing. This thing is happening again. So he's like seeing all these bad stuff. He realizes it's not in Korea. He's trying to figure out what's going on. But then he's woken up before he really sees anything important. I feel like if he tells them what he sees, they're just kind of not gonna believe him, which is hilarious because Tahoe literally just was like, he's an elf, they see the future. So hopefully maybe him discovering this information about his past, his clan, will make people believe him, because when the fortune teller gave him his, I guess, hint to his true name, it showed this woman holding the orb, and we've identified her as Cassandra, who was a prophet that no one believed, basically. And so we think that it's related to his true name, which is tomorrow. He sees tomorrow, he wants to be together tomorrow, etc., etc. Tomorrow, bye together. So that's kind of where it wraps up here. You'll actually probably know the answer to this question if you've been keeping up with the webtoon, because at the time of filming this, the next chapter isn't out officially yet, so I won't be able to screenshot it, and so I can't do any of the editing and stuff for this, so that chapter is probably out by the time you're watching this, but I'll talk about it next week, and yeah, we'll see how right or wrong I was. So, let's talk about Dark Moon. We're going to start with the Blood Altar. So this is starting from chapter 29 until chapter 31. So just as a recap, kind of the last time we talked about this, they were kind of meeting with Marge, who was like, oh, I want to take the princess, I want to keep her safe, which is Suha, of course, the reincarnated princess. And they're like, don't touch her, like super protective, and they sort of threaten Marge. Of course, this obviously doesn't put her off because we see her like in the school and stuff like that. And everyone's trying to keep Marge away from Suha. But of course, this is the night ball game now, so of course all of the wolves and all of the vampires are on the like field, so they're not really watching Suha that closely, but they can see her, she's in the stands, she's right there, it's fine. It is not, in fact, fine, but we'll get to that. First, we see that Khan is kind of worried because he is basically playing the game without some of his members, and the reason for that is, of course, they've gone to investigate something. It doesn't tell us, but we know it's the werewolf trafficking kind of thing. Werewolves are going missing, and so they're following the vampires, and this will come into play in the next chapter as well. But yeah, so several of his members are missing, and so he's like, oh, they said they would come back, like, please come back. We're not sure what happened to them. They're potentially in danger. They've been missing, or like, they've been gone for a lot longer than he anticipated, which of course this also happened in the web novel. Spoilers, but they did get captured, so that's gonna be fun. I'm excited because we're finally getting to this part. Anyways, so they're doing the night ball match, and of course they're pretty evenly matched as well, the vampires and the werewolves, as a team. They work together really well. The werewolves are a pack. And if we've been following the Grey City, we know they've probably been a pack for like close to 20 years. I don't know. Timeline's a little bit confusing, but they've been a pack for at least like over a decade. And the vampires, you know, have telekinesis, telekinetic. They have Helly's ability to talk to each other, so they can always see what's going on. And they're all very fast, and they're all very strong, and they can throw things evenly matched. They're tied almost. So they've kind of all been distracted, whatever. Marge takes her chance and talks to Suha, which obviously that was going to happen. I kind of don't understand why none of them considered that. Like, why wouldn't you think, oh, the person who's following them will probably, like, take the chance of us all being in this one, like, match to, like, take her? Because that's what she said she was gonna do. I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me that they weren't like, oh, be careful, like, someone's gonna kidnap you. Like, tell Suha. Like, communication. It's non-existent. Anyways, so Suha goes to meet Marge right after the second half, and Helly notices that she's missing. Of course, as this happens, you know, she goes to meet Marge, and before Marge can even tell her anything, they get ambushed by vampires, because of course they do. You'd think the wolves would notice the smell of all these vampires, because it looked like there was a lot of them to me. But I guess they're like super hyper-focused on the match, you know what I mean? And also the other vampire boys are there, so maybe that's just like messing with their sense of smell. Either way, they're ambushed by vampires. And they successfully seem to kidnap Suha. Don't know what happened to Marge. My guess is Marge is... The kidnap for Suha is something that I think they've shown before in the Future Perfect music video, which is the scene where they kind of find like the empty desk and it's a school uniform. I think that was indicating that Suha was missing, and we see the drifters outside the window. I kind of previously assumed Marge had been the one to kidnap her because she said that was what she was going to do, to take the princess and keep her safe. And now it's clearly the vampires, so... Anyways, Sunshine City wins the Nightball match because, of course, Helly's distracted. He notices Suha's missing. Ah! He correctly assumes Marge is involved until he realizes that something else has happened. And then he tells Jaka, hey, can you sense her? Jaka can't sense her, so she's either unconscious or dead, which is the only time that he wouldn't be able to sense her, because she has, like, a really strong wave, if you kind of remember. He also can't sense Marge's, so she's also either unconscious or dead. There's a lot of blood that they find on the ground, which just makes me think that that's probably Marge's blood. So, again, I think that Marge is, like, you know, whoops. I don't know, maybe she's fine. Maybe, I don't know. I just, Suha will never know from Marge anyways, as she'll have to know from the boys if Marge is, in fact, dead. Anyways, this is the start of the vampires and the wolves actually working together, which we know happens because of the web novel as well. So this is where they're like, okay, hey, the wolves say, we've been tracking the vampires, so they're going to go try to follow up on that and figure out where they might have taken Suha. And the vampire boys are like, okay, cool, let's return to our orphanage because they think Marge took her. Obviously, we know which one of these two is correct. The werewolves. We know the vampires took Suha, because we saw it. However, this is now the start of when the webtoon and the web novel stories are kind of coming back together, like they're converging now, and I can sort of see where this is headed. The events that happened are not exactly the same, but they're similar enough that now that I can see, now that I have the future knowledge of the novel, I can sort of see where this is headed. So the vampire boys, I'm assuming they're going to go to their orphanage, they're going to discover the book about them being princes. I'm not actually sure about that, though, because that may have just been a novel thing. But for sure, I'm pretty sure Helly will find his sword, which we've seen in, like, some of the intros and stuff like that. But Suha was, again, never actually kidnapped in the novel. Can't remember the exact events of what happened in the web novel to make them work with the wolves, but something kind of happened and Suha was fogged. I think they thought she was missing. I don't know, I have to reread it. But the point is, it wasn't exactly the same, but it's similar enough along the same vein that I feel like we can see them converging. I also assume that in this situation now, Suha's going to discover her ability to turn into fog, because she still hasn't discovered that, even though they've hinted at it as far back as, like, someone asked her if she really was having dreams and if she was actually there. So we can assume that was her ability, turning her into fog, because in the web novel, her dreams were actually her traveling as fog, and then she would just, like, physically appear in that location. So I assume that that's how she's going to get out of this kidnapped sticky situation. She's going to turn into fog and escape, probably. I really feel like the ball is rolling now. I really feel like the story's moving forward, and we're finally seeing it get somewhere, in terms of, like, narrative, like, new stuff. And I'm really excited to see how the webtoon will actually deal with this, because in the web novel it was a little confusing. Like, I think I've said this before, but the web novel feels like a draft, which is why things are so different, but the webtoon, I think, is like the real deal. How different do you think this is gonna be? Let me know what you think, because, I don't know, I'm very excited. Okay, following the theme of Dark Moon, let's talk about Dark Moon, the Gray City. So we're going to be covering chapters 2 to 5 today, and this starts with basically them introducing Croc, the bully. We don't like him. And his dad, who's a very rich bully. He owns basically the whole town. We always love rich bullies. We can see where this is going, right? Like, this is going to be I feel like this is going to be a really important part of the story, in terms of, like, you know, they have the vampires they're fighting with. And if you see my video, which I've either posted or haven't posted yet, breaking down, like, the Gray City in relation to the Under the Skin music video, I kind of talk about how there might be a second wolf pack, Yuma's pack, or potentially even a third wolf pack that's like an adversary as well. And I think the third issue that they're going to have to focus on is going to be not just the vampires, not just the werewolves, but also the humans of the town. Very specifically, rich dude who's Croc's dad. I don't remember if he had a name or not. I didn't have it written down. So anyway, rich guy. Most of the stuff is just kind of covering all of that. However, there is a moment in chapter 5, right at the beginning, I think, where they smell vampires. So basically, Najak is kind of learning how to be a wolf. And I think the others as well, but he's getting, like, a breakdown. He's like, hey, like, we scratch things to, like, leave claw marks to let other wolves know that this is our territory and stuff like that. But also, he's kind of learning the ins and outs in terms of what is expected within a pack. And so they're going to be doing, like, a perimeter patrol kind of thing in their wolf form, and they are like, oh my god, we know that smell. That's vampire. And I guess they specifically identify vampires by the smell of blood, is kind of how it's described. And so they follow the scent, but it kind of disperses along what looks like a highway or something like that. So they're like, okay, maybe they just passed by. It should be fine. Let's just increase our rotation. So they're a little bit nervous about that, but they're like, okay, you know, it's good. There's nothing here. Thank goodness. But now we know what it looks like when they see scents. And so, like, the next day, Najak is really focused on Khan, and it seems to notice his scent. Either that or it's, like, his backpack. I don't know. So it makes me wonder if he's going to figure out, oh, hey, you kind of smell like a wolf to me. And then he's going to realize they're a wolf, and they're like, oh my god, we're wolves too. I don't know. I'm just, like, excited for them to figure it out. I have a feeling they won't figure it out just yet, but you never know. Anyways, they start to very hilariously kind of defend, like, Khan from these bullies, and they're doing, like, really awful stuff to them, but the way that they defend them is just, it's so funny. Please go read it. I'm having a great time. If you're just watching my, like, recaps, please read it. If you are reading it, please tell me how you enjoyed it, because I think it's so funny and I'm just laughing by myself right now. So yeah, they're starting to actively defend Khan, and we also kind of learn about, like, the backstory on why Khan just puts up with these bullies when clearly he can defend himself, because, like, he gets punched in the face, accidentally, of course. Anyways, they're like, they punched him real hard, and so he barely had a scratch, and they're like, bro, hello? That's super weird. So they're like, you can clearly hold your own. Why do you let them walk all over you like this? And he kind of reveals, like, oh, like, the whole backstory about how he got the name of the devil, and like the nickname of the devil, which we saw in the first chapter, and how the like bully's dad, of course, owns everything and threatens the like inn. So he would rather be, you know, tormented than like have his family suffer. And because of his reputation, because he's like the devil, because he fights really well or whatever. And so, yeah, basically he's an upstanding guy. But also, that really sucks because I feel like you're just kind of backed into a corner. So I'm really hoping that they're all going to become really good friends, which I think they will because the name of this chapter, like I think like 3 chapters, and then also the next chapter, chapter 6, which isn't out yet, is named Becoming Closer. So I'm hoping they will all be friends and it'll be really cute, and hopefully they can, you know, put an end to the bullying, or at least slow it down or something. And hopefully there's nothing bad, because it's not like Khan is actively the one defying Croc, but it's them. I don't know. I just feel like maybe it'll be okay because it's not actively Khan who's like defying them. I don't know. I just want things to work out, even though it's called Dark Moon, and I feel like it's been very dark. They had flashbacks of like when they used to be attacked as vampires. I talk about all this in like the Grey City Under the Skin video, which is either out or coming out next. So I'm not going to go into like huge detail, but like, you know, they talk about the backstory of them having to like find that place because of all the vampires, and it's quite gruesome. So this story is definitely looking dark things in the face. So I'm not under the illusion that this is only going to be a happy, nice story, but I do feel like they balance it out really well with humor. So I've been really enjoying this. I'm tempted to say this might be my favorite webtoon. I know, we're replacing the Blood Altar with the Grey City, which is like, they're both Dark Moon, but like, oh, I'm just really excited. I love found family, which is the theme of this story as well, or like a theme of this story. I'm happy because it seems like it's really going somewhere exciting, and I'm so happy with both the Dark Moon stories right now. I hope that Khan can trust them. That's all I have to say. Let's talk about Crimson Heart. So we'll be talking about chapters 3 to 7 today. And there is a lot of information in each of these chapters, so I'm going to try to go kind of quickly because this one's going to be pretty long. It's definitely the longest in terms of my notes that I have for all of the webtoons. But just as a recap, on the last chapter, they went to the wall and then they got like attacked because of the SWAT team touching the blue firefly, which turned him into a monster. Okay. And then she's like yelling at the end and they're like, ah, or whatever, and the necklace starts to glow, and that's what brings us into chapter 3, where it turns out the necklace teleported them outside of the walls. I wonder why that happened, actually. Like, was that Joanne's enhanced ability? Is that the necklace's ability? Like the Crimson Heart's ability? I don't know. But it's very interesting that it just, like, teleported them. And I wonder what triggers it. Is it, like, that she really wanted it? Because it's a heart, right? So it's, like, what you want is, like, to get away. So it, like, teleported them away. I don't know. But I wonder why that happened. Let me know what you think the power of the Crimson Heart actually is. Also, in the writing, it does say that the act of removing them from Refugia, which is like a very controlled city, everything is under a control of someone, essentially freed their souls. I don't know how this is, if it's like the wall of the city somehow blocks magic or something like that. Because we'll see in the next couple chapters they start to unlock their magic. Anyways, because they all get teleported out, Yoje is like, hey, let me share the information that I know about them, because they're like, whoa, it touched the blue firefly, and she's like, hey, I know something about the blue fireflies, you know, break the curse of the blue fireflies. And as she's showing this book, which she still has on her, luckily, Senna's like, oh my god, that's my grandma's like handwriting, and her grandma is Kim, one of the founders of Refugia, and she's like, that's like her diary, basically. That's her writing. Anyways, and we start to get into the backstory of the 3 founders. So there were 3, obviously. One of them is Kim, she was the magician, and that's Senna's grandmother. But there were 2 others who are still alive, named Botan, who was the ruler, and Ark, who was the builder. And then she says, yeah, my grandma died in a suspicious car accident. Suspicious? As in they don't, like, if, and the other 2 are still alive? We know what this is set up for, right? they're probably evil. And we actually do see they're working with this hooded guy named Necro, which we only know the name of because of Twitter. And Necro means death, by the way. Also, I think he was the guy from, like, chapter 1 who had a dream about all of them and saving them. So I don't understand. He's like, oh, the Crimson Heart's been found. He tells both of them, but it's like he's been dreaming about these girls. So maybe he doesn't realize that it's the same girls that he's been dreaming of. But we see the Crimson Heart in his dream getting, like, corrupted or something, which is a little concerning. But we see it, and so I'm getting, like, weird whiplash. I'm like, do you want to be saved, or do you want them captured? Because Botan and Ark seem kind of evil. You know, they're the antagonists, clearly. So are you an antagonist or not? I don't know. I feel like maybe there's more to him than meets the eye. Anyways, on the girls' side, they're having a fun little bonding time, and then they, of course, run into a monster, and this one is called the Gooey Haze Monster, or Nubigena? I don't know. Anyways, they're trapped in, like, all these, like, fogness, and I'm not sure because there's, like, all these particles, which they said is the firefly powder, and I'm not sure if that is what causes these hallucinations to happen, or if it's because of the gooey monster thing. Since I don't really know what the dust does, they can't breathe well, and so they try to move to an area without it, and then even after this, they move away from, like, it and try to, like, go in an area where the firefly dust isn't so strong, and I don't know what it's supposed to do. So basically, it kind of traps you by wrapping you in, like, she describes it as fur, like, kind of, basically, and it kind of, basically, it absorbs you, I guess. However, we realize that Davi can speak to cats. Probably it's actually all animals. But this cat that she finds is Unche's character, Luisha, and I love that so much. I'm so excited now that Luisha's in here. I think Unche might be my bias, so sorry. So her power unlocked at some point, but also Senna's power also unlocks at this point. It has, like, this weird, like, electricity thing, which I assume is, like, her offensive kind of attack, since in the first chapter we also see her, like, using lightning to attack monsters or whatever. But also I think she can, like, see through, like, magic and magic illusions and stuff like that. In the balance game video that they did with Le Seraphim, Sakura says that her character can, like, borrow others' sight. Not sure exactly what that means, but I'm assuming it's related. Maybe she can sort of see what the spellcaster can see. So, of course, the spellcaster can see the other monsters or whatever. Because of them all working together, including Luisha, they find the belly button, the navel of this monster, and by destroying it, then they destroy the monster. So, yay! First disaster averted! Or second, I guess, if you want to think of them escaping Refugia as the first disaster. Anyways, we learned that they don't know anything about animals because all animals are extinct, which is something we did kind of know if you read the, like, prologue which came with the album, but the prologue is, like, an unofficial rewriting of it that just they did for promotional reasons. It's, like, confirmed to not be exactly the story, just, like, adjacent to the rules and knowing the rules of the story. They don't have animals. They don't know what animals really are. They kind of have heard of them, but they're extinct. Clearly, Luisha's a cat. They didn't know what a cat was. Actually, they don't know a lot of things. Anyways, so we learn a little bit also about the blue fireflies here because they start talking with Luisha, who at least knows some stuff about the world, thank goodness. And basically they're like, yeah, like, blue fireflies, they do enhance your magic, but you should be careful not to touch them because some of them, she didn't say all of them, but some of them can turn you into monsters. So, well, we know what happened with that. Previously, Unche has actually mentioned that the blue fireflies also, like, unlock your desires, or it can see your heart's desires or something like that. Taps into your desires, I suppose. So, is that related to making you stronger, or is that turning you into a monster? I don't know. We also learned that Yoje's powers are also unlocked, and she can, I guess, kind of not see through magic, but I'm assuming it's that magic doesn't actually affect her, because we noticed that in the fog she could still see everyone, and then later we'll see that, like, certain magical drugs, or just drugs in general, just did not affect her. So, yes, her powers also unlocked. That's, like, most of them that have unlocked powers now. I think except for Joanne, unless the teleportation thing is Joanne's power. I don't know. They also discuss some things like in the world that I think might be important. For example, they mention that their batteries seem to be running out faster. And they're like, whoa, everything's dead. All of our electronics are dead, but it's like been like a day. So like, whoa, that ran out really fast. And to that I say, hello, Senna, you have electricity. Can you use it to charge things? I don't know, because we do see in like the promo video for Blue Flame, when they're riding on the like motorcycle, they have the little box and they're using the box. I don't know, determine their location or whatever. The box is like the IPS, something really close to GPS. I think it's IPS, and they're using it. So clearly it's charged again. Unless that's not one of the things that is being affected by this. Like, I don't know if it has a charge or what. Anyways, they have this whole situation where they're like, what's a map? But they discover the book has a map, which is great, except it's not great because they have no clue where they are. So they're like, okay, well, let's find a river. Maybe we can figure out where we are then. So they start looking for the river. And then, of course, they run into a creepy guy in the woods. And I think they basically just ignore all of the life advice that they've gotten up till that point in their life and, you know, common sense, and are like, yeah, let's follow this guy in the woods to his house. He feeds them lovely food, and he also drugs them so that they fall asleep. But of course, as we mentioned before, Yoje, who isn't affected by things apparently, is the only one to wake up. And Luisha, because she ran away. Because she was like, something's weird here, and didn't tell them, and then just left. So anyways, this guy ends up being called a grafter, which is just like another type of creature, and he basically steals people's body parts and then like grafts them onto himself. So we know what he wants to do with them, of course, but he's not the only grafter that we've seen before. If you've been following their Twitter, we know that Zozoba, who ends up being part of the whole Crimson Heart crew, is also a grafter. And conveniently, we see her at the end of this episode. So my best guess is she's probably going to save them. Some backstory on the grafters is apparently they used to be healers. So something's gone wrong there. But I wonder if maybe Zozoba remembers being a healer. And yeah. Also, it says that they've been corrupted because of the blue fireflies. And so I'm just like, what is it about the blue fireflies that caused healers to become these like creepy things? You know, I don't know. It's just very curious to me. Is this the curse? It must be the curse, right? That makes sense, right? But yeah, I think they're really gonna have to rely on Zozoba in this instance because no offense to both Luisha and Yoje, but they're not really equipped to deal with this situation. Luisha's in her cat form because I don't think I mentioned it, but she's actually a shapeshifter. I think we've talked about this in previous episodes, but yeah, she's a shapeshifter. So she shapeshifts into a cat or a human, and so she's in her cat form, which is not very helpful. And Yoje, I don't think her ability is particularly useful in this sense, and as far as I'm aware, she doesn't have an offensive ability that we're aware of yet. So, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, if they were left to their own devices, I think they would probably lose. But luckily, Zozoba's there, so maybe she'll just, like, I don't know, be like, oh, I'll take them off your hands. Or something. Or maybe she'll fight. I don't know. Something's gonna happen, and Zozoba's gonna save them. So yeah, that's the end. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been filming for a while. The sun has kind of set. Sorry for the change of lighting. If you did like this video and you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on so that YouTube tells you every single time I post a video. All of my social media is linked in the description down below. And of course, I want to give a shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. If you'd like to become a patron, the link is in the description down below. Alright, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay sunny, everyone. Bye!